I mean, look, again, the amount that you have learned from it, the exposure I mean, it's funny because going from the NFL, I know just you and I alone have probably toured 10 different gardens.
At least.
I mean, you've toured my garden when I was up and running with Grassroots a couple times. In fact, both my gardens.
I've seen a lot of people's gardens before they've been in them.
Yep, and it's funny because with what was my Pennsylvania facility, Eugene saw that from the first rooms up to the now 180,000 square feet that they have now.
Right.
Those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, is there any regrets that you had in football? I mean, it seems like you've been pretty, kind of go with the flow.
Man, I gave the game everything.
Sounds like you gave it 100.
I put myself, involved myself into, anything I decided to do. And I certainly gave ball everything I had. And the point when I retired, I took that off season. I trained my ass off.
Mm-hmm.
You lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, I actually put weight back on too.
Okay.
Because I played the last season pretty lean. And I just wanted to come back bigger and stronger. And so my rehab went really well. I got my weight back on. I was cleared to play, plenty strong and physically healthy enough, but there was something else going on that wasn't really discussed, but
my
head was still messed up.
Are you smoking cannabis at this point? Or you?
Oh yeah.
So this is you've crossed over. You're on our team.
Oh, by this time I had already publicly pushed the NFL to change those archaic policies and allow players to consume something that, quite frankly, they should have been educating them.
So you started talking about this, but very quickly.
Let's dive into that.
After you retired, you had the episode that made you very uncomfortable.
No, that was while I played.
That was while he played. Yeah. So this is all and it's funny because I'll be honest with you, as long as I've known you, I guess I never really put that part together.
So remember, I told you I'd already invested in green.
Yeah, I knew you invested in GTI.
But had you at that point? So did you invest in cannabis before you had ever consumed cannabis?
No. So the first time I ever
what is your first experience?
My first experience was my bachelor party.
Yeah.
No shit.
Webby.
And you
Webby
just decided,
was involved.
Decided to go for it, or did it happen spontaneously?
So man,
this is a good story. First time.
It's a bachelor party, right?
Of course.
It's my crew. So I bring buddies from my hometown. I've got,
you've picked up some people along the way at this point. I've got
my Virginia bros with me.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, my best friend Adam, who wasn't an athlete, but we talked about me being a nerd. Like I met Adam playing Guild Wars online before UVA. Like just randomly meet this kid who's gone to the same school as me, playing Guild Wars online.
Mm-hmm.
He became one of my very best friends to this day. So we shared a bachelor party. So we're rolling like 30 deep everywhere we're going. Like who wants to let in 30 dudes, right? Like it's just madness everywhere we're going.
Yeah.
And I let loose. At the time, I did consume alcohol. And so, partying, we get back to the room one day, they're rolling up a blunt, like not a joint. They're just rolling up straight up, like probably a cigarello.
Right. Yeah.
They're like, yo, Gene, just hit it. It's my bachelor party. I'm already drunk.
Alcohol's a hell of a drug.
I calculate like, all right, if I hit this once, it might be out my system by the time I get tested.
Oh,
I was terrified. Yeah, I would have been totally fine if I hit the whole blunt myself.
But you didn't know that then.
But I was terrified.
I can believe it.
I hit the joint and I don't feel like I'm high or anything else changes other than the realization that my back was not hurting anymore.
Really?
And my knee was not hurting anymore.
So that was the first feeling of cannabis you actually got, was relief. It had nothing to do with the psychoactive characteristics of it.
I didn't continue consuming, but I started studying.
Sure.
That's how I knew what was happening.
Got you. You knew there were cannabinoid receptors at this point, and you go, okay, hold on. What happened to me was not random.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I started doing a ton of research.
Very interesting.
But I stayed away from it. Just let it go.
But and that was at what point? How old were you at that point?
Man, that was after my second season.
So that was after your second season. Okay, so the first time you smoked cannabis was your second after your second season. Okay, so early on, but again, you're looking at that as potentially fucking up a contract, a career,
lose
a lot
of money if you test dirty.
I can't tell you how terrified I was.
I could only imagine.
When we got drug tested.
I mean, it's a $30
this was
million
like months prior, and it was the only couple puffs I took.
Right.
You couldn't tell me I wasn't gonna fail that test, man.
No.
Yeah.
I guarantee anybody could have dropped the science on you, and you're like, I don't give a shit. No, for sure, I'm failing.
This is it. Like,
So how do we go from there to, like you said, you invested in GTI, what, 2015?
So, what I saw was fascinating. I didn't see any of the stigma. Like, I didn't see what I was taught in DARE. Like, I didn't see what I was taught in church.
You couldn't find the negative things that everybody was telling you. The reefer madness aspect of it wasn't there.
Well, at the time,
you're like, I'm using this stuff to get me off of drugs, not to get me on them.
At the time, CBD became pretty big, right?
Yep.
And I was watching children with a debilitating condition, and one kid after the other was in worse shape. These families were like getting relief and like crying tears of joy and like experiencing, all of these developments in their kids' health behind this isolated compound in cannabis, right? They're extracting it, isolating it, and it's delivering all these fantastic results. So while I wasn't consuming, I was taking notes. I was seeing that at the same time medical cannabis was advancing, so was the opportunity to invest in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And those, look, man, dude, those were powerful. Those were good times.
Videos too. That shit, and like you said, it was over and over.
Well, you say videos. I was investing time. I was traveling, meeting doctors around.
Yeah, and actually seeing everything right in front of you. Yeah,
families and the patients that they were treating in person.
Yeah. That was. I mean, really, CBD helped put cannabis in general in front of people's faces.
It broke it down to people, right?
Yep.
There's a stigma surrounding getting high.
Yes.
Which is interesting when, someone will accept an opioid, which definitely makes you high.
Yeah. Real fuzzy, real warm, real fuzzy. And
So it made me not recognize my daughter.
Which is, that had to be a rather
which has never happened with cannabis,
right?
No.
So you're now you're retiring from the NFL. You're up in Maryland. Had you consumed in the off season at all through the rest after that?
So after I stopped the opioid prescription, I 100% started consuming. Consistently. And what I noticed was that not only did I not need to take the opioid pills,
right?
I didn't need to take the anti-inflammatory pills
because it's doing that anyway.
Even worse for me.
Right. Really bad for your kidneys.
I've been on a daily prescription of Celebrex since April of 2006.
Oh, yeah, that can't be good.
And when Celebrex wasn't enough, when they upped the dose and the swelling wouldn't go away,
right?
If draining wasn't an option, then it's Indocin, another medicine, which I almost had to take a medicine for my GI at the same time.
Right.
So it's
medicine
toxic,
for the medicine.
So you're taking one medicine and then it's creating these symptoms. So, here's another
medicine to take care of that.
So now you've switched to cannabis. You've dropped a lot of this other stuff that all these, physicians.
I dropped it all.
Had been prescribing you.
And so I also get the feeling you went from almost no cannabis use to like regular use. Almost
regular use and, being open and being an athlete in the community, talking about cannabis, like just created relationships. And
of course,
very quickly, I got knowledge and access to like the better side of cannabis and like the good stuff. Right. People who really know how to grow it.
Right.
Yeah. And it was cool because you were with GTI. So just like you were saying, You were getting this exposure. You were helping these guys win licenses in states. You were an integral part of Maryland and a bunch of other markets. You were spending a lot of time in Chicago with those guys. I'll say
this, right? During that experience, it was interesting seeing a corporation be built, by men who had, already built and exited companies. So it was an incredible learning experience.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there was something missing in the sauce.
Well, and something that
there was something like a huge component missing.
So you're involved.
You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, the flavor.
Yeah.
So, and the one thing that's actually interesting now is, looking back on it, it's 2023.
Right.
Not only did Gene have a good portion of his life where he was anti,
right
now he actually is one of the legacy guys as well, which, all us guys who did it illegally for years, sure, we consider ourselves legacy guys, but let's just face facts. Without guys like Gene in a lot of these spaces, Gene was the one who was out going out, not only win licenses, but foreign policy.
Yeah. Well, and be able to get to people in high places quickly, places that a lot
being
of us
an
legacy
athlete
guys.
Open doors,
yes.
Right? Being an athlete, got people interested. I don't think they expected me to know as much about cannabis and how it worked. And
well, you had done your homework. You had done your homework before you.
I did my homework, and I was getting, like a Harvard lesson from, some of the sharpest business minds around.
Right.
Kiddens, Ben Kovler, Anthony Georgiadis, Andy Grossman, Dina Roman in legal. The team was sharp.
Yeah, the team at GTI was pretty amazing. I was part of that whole MSO revolution. And as far as all the teams that have done it, I feel like GTI is probably one of the most, you were saying, I think they're the most profitable out of all.
They're up there for sure. Very strong balance sheet for an MSO.
Something to be said for, especially where a lot of situations the MSOs are in today.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, again, the amount that you have learned from it, the exposure it's funny because going from the NFL, I know just you and I alone have probably toured 10 different gardens.
At least.
I mean, you've toured my garden when I was up and running with Grassroots a couple times. In fact, both my gardens.
I've seen a lot of people's gardens before they've been in them.
Yep. And it's funny because with what was my Pennsylvania facility, Eugene saw that from the first rooms up to the now 180,000 square feet that they have now.
Right.
Those guys love them at that building. The GM of the building actually has a football that Eugene signed from our first trip. So his exposure, not for nothing. Let's talk a little bit of you're invested, I think, in Greenlight, right? Is that the right?
Look, there's various.
You have all kinds of stuff that you've done, and in which they're part of the producers of the Ganjier program.
Yeah. So let's, you alluded to it a little bit before. Obviously, you're learning about cannabis. You're with very sharp people on the legal end, on the business end, things like that.
Yeah.
But one of the missing components was
the piece that became most fun for me, which was like the actual cultivation.
The love.
Right. So cultivation is something that has become a true love of yours, correct?
There's always something growing, whether it's cannabis or the apple trees I planted.
Right. Absolutely. And to be fair, you've got some beautiful flora around the home as well. So, and for me, that's plants are an incredible thing. So it's an endeavor that's a lifelong endeavor. That's really the fun part about it, right?
Yeah.
And not just cannabis, of course. Cannabis is a C3 photoperiodic plant. That's an amazing thing. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of amazing plants out there. So I always love people to expand. If they have a real love of cannabis, expand your love for other plants too. You know what I mean?
Well, if you're studying cannabis, you're learning how it grows.
Correct.
You're learning about soil and nutrients. The same thing apply, to other fruits and vegetables that you might want to eat,
100%.
Or flowers you might want to grow, trees even. So, I'm a student, man.
Right.
Always learning.
So you're 8 years deep now on your cannabis journey. It's pretty crazy. first off,
9 if you include
9.
just the like study time before hopping in.
right. Which a lot of people, they don't study that.
I consider
much.
that to be part. Well, and I consider that to be part of the journey. We're smart enough to actually study in it rather than just dive in head first. Most of
And
us
there's also
just dive in
like
head first.
you talk legacy, but there's still the knowledge and understanding of sort of how that piece moved before this was fashionable.
Sure.
Being from where I'm from,
Right.
and that activity happening right in my house too. So I'm
Right.
like not ignorant to how things move either.
Right. And I mean, it was definitely that was a risk stepping out and being pro cannabis, and especially
I mean, no one in my corner told me that stepping out and talking
was a good idea
about cannabis was a good idea. My agent's like,
Yeah.
yo, this is it. Like, they're not gonna rock with you in the league after this, but there was still opportunity.
Well, I guess, because we didn't really touch on that too much. What did you and Kyle do to go and change those rules in the league? Because now they don't test anymore? What exactly is the rule in the league?
I can't say it's me and Kyle, right?
It's a bunch of you guys.
It's the pressure that everyone created.
Right.
And ultimately, when you have your fan base, realizing that this is a problem too, like at some point you've got to change.
right.
And the NFL has so much social power. It controls a day of the week for half the year.
Right.
So if you can mobilize a fan base to look at this issue, and quite frankly, the teams are located in these states where it's becoming legal everywhere.
Right.
You've got
Right.
fans that want to enjoy the product either before or after the game or during it, right? You go to the stadiums, you're definitely smelling weed smoke now.
Yes, you are.
Without a doubt. And it might be me if I happen to go there. But
That's the truth.
Yeah, no, he's not afraid. He's not afraid these days. No, it has been. I mean, even when I was in Florida just, a few weeks ago, it's like there's a volleyball tournament going out on the beach. I'm sitting there puffing trees in my back patio. Nobody once was like, because normally you see the bird dogs, right? You see,
well, it should be normal, right?
It should be. But even a couple years before that, people even on the beach in Florida are looking all around. Not a second look today. You know what I mean? It's like, and that policy change has happened rather fast, quite frankly.
And it should be normal, but it's also not for everybody.
No. I don't think anything is for everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that, and even going back to where, more for us is fine. I think even going back to the very beginning, that belief, which I have the same belief that all cannabis use is medicinal on some level, whether it's a conscious use of it for medicinal reasons or whether it's a subconscious use of it for medicinal reasons, whether it's anti-inflammatory, whether it's just, making you be a happier, more patient person. I mean, it's like, it is habituating. There's no doubt about it. Although I would venture to say that, and this has been said before and we say again, but the most addictive part of cannabis is cultivating it.
Yeah, I'll agree. It's definitely addicting. It's something that you literally practice, right? So It's like being a player again. Right now I get to hone my skills and put them to the test. And then there's also like coaches who can judge that, end result, like people who have done it longer than I, who know how these genetics should be expressed. And I'm trying to maximize that too, no different than my performance as an athlete or as a student.
Well, I've always known you to be one to always one up yourself, always, hey, I did this. This was great. Could have been better for these reasons.
Well, and I think something you've done, and it's become very apparent to me in this interview, is you've always competed with yourself, which is the smartest person to compete with. When you start competing with everybody else, then I think things can get a little bit skewed. When you're always working within yourself to continue making yourself better, ultimately you come up above the ones around you, You
got to be able to lead yourself. You have to be able to make decisions and stick to them. You have to believe in yourself and have the faith that the things that you set out to do, you're going to accomplish them.
Right.
And you only don't if you quit.
Right.
So, Gabe knows how many times have I presented you flour and it's just like, try again, bro.
Well, and I mean, I
Me
think
too. Me too.
yeah. I mean, it's like, look, I've had good batches, I've had great batches, I've had bad batches, and I mean, but again, I think that's what keeps us. I think that's the addictive nature of it. Yeah. That's what keeps us coming back. When you do get a good run, you're just like, yes,
I think
this is it.
I think Gene's always, as long as I've known you, you've always been a student, no matter what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
If it's photography, if it's going to Japan, if it's doing whatever, you're always the guy who's like, hey, we're gonna learn as much as we can from this situation. We're gonna come out of it better and on top.
Right.
Well, and I definitely see that in the garden, and
I do too.
I'll tell you what. This round right now shows. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. No, sure. I mean, and for people that have been watching, of course, I wanted to go ahead and give you the opportunity to say, where can people find you online, things like that. So if you want to go ahead and just maybe give somebody a little bit of that information.
Yeah, thanks for the drop space. I'm Eugene Green Monroe. Most people just know me as Eugene Monroe, but my full last name's Green Monroe. I have both my mother and my father's last names. But on Instagram, I'm at Eugene Green Monroe. Myself and my partner, Leo, who and you've been on our set, and we'll be pushing our content out very soon.
It's going to be good.
You can also find me at Smoking Heroes. We'll be on most platforms, potentially YouTube. We'll get you that info, but we've, locked up Smoking Heroes pretty much everywhere.
Hell yeah. You're about it. You're in that life now. What is the future going to hold for you and your team over the next couple of years? Because I know you have some big plans, but outside the Smoking Heroes podcast, what else you got going on?
Yeah,
man?
what you got going on?
Yeah, so because you've been involved to date with our endeavors in both New Jersey and Maryland, where we're approved in Millville, New Jersey for Class 1 and 2 cultivation and manufacturing. So I want to grow, man. Like I want to do this, with the people.
You want to grow, or you want to just like what? I mean,
no, he wants to grow.
You know what that means, though, right? Like I want to do this.
Well, and I can say, and again, Gabe, obviously, will back me up on this, but I've seen, your pursuit of, quality and everything you do.
The pursuit of headies.
And you've walked a lot of things, and you've been grabbing a little bit from here, grab it a little from there, grab it, and now you're going to mash this all together eventually, and something I think it's going to be, really special. So definitely, everybody be watching out for that. I mean, I guess along that lines, we kind of danced around this a little bit. But do you have a favorite strain? I mean, for me, sometimes it's strain of the day. Is there anything that you have out there that is just something that you always would love to have a jar of?
That's tough.
I know.
It evolves over time.
GMO.
Mine's GG4. I'll tell you right now. I mean, I just I love that sandalwoody. It always seems to chemically, hit me right, which is always funny because I saw some posting today about indica sativa, and I'm like, that's thin leaf and thick leaf drug variety. Just read Robert Clark's book. What affects me chemically, just because it's one thing or the other, doesn't necessarily affect you or you the same way chemically. So I personally love glue. I love the taste and I love the effect, and always just seems to get me ripped.
Yeah,
so
I mean that's hard. I love glue too.
Yeah,
I haven't had a good batch of it in a while.
Okay, all right. I got
challenge accepted.
I bet say I've got a good one coming down, and we can work that out.
Yeah, I don't want to be too easy about it, but you can't go wrong with glue.
No, you can't go wrong with glue. Can't go wrong with glue. Do you have and I know you're, especially post-career, you just got back from Japan, which is definitely been a bucket list.
Back to ski.
Bucket list. Which is
something else that cannabis has brought into my life.
This man skis. This man skis.
Hey, we taught him how to ski.
Knees too.
We taught him how to ski.
So, do you have a favorite travel destination, or is it Japan? I mean, is that... and I know that's a tough question too, almost like a strain.
I've had the most fun with my family in Japan.
Cool.
We love Kauai in Hawaii too.
Okay. Hard not to.
I love home. Like I love where I'm at.
Well, and you created
Maryland. I love the friends and family we have there.
You have a beautiful situation there, and it's not just the you have a wonderful, peaceful property, but people do. You've got an evolving group of characters, which is always great. There's a good. This guy over here being one of them.
There's a good band of misfits that's
always
Dean Monroe.
People, it's like people look at me, but I'm blind to it most of the time now. So like my friends will point it out to me, and there's just these crazy looks. Like, all right, this is big black dude. All right, there's a little Asian dude here
with dreadlocks.
Yeah, with dreadlocks. And then there's another Asian dude. Oh wait, there's this like bearded Jewish guy. Like what? It's just
what is going on?
It's just completely diverse.
Right.
It's a motley crew. It's fun.
Do you have a favorite food?
Favorite food? It's boring, man. But like, I just love oatmeal.
Because I was not expecting that, folks.
Not because of how it tastes, but it just makes me feel good. It gives me like sustainable energy. Sure.
Yeah,
I just
feels
like
good for the body.
Bowl of plain oatmeal with some coconut oil and call it a day.
Wow. All right. Again, this is why we ask these questions, because I wouldn't have guessed that one. I'll tell you that right now. I know you're definitely a reader. If so, what are you reading currently, and do you have a favorite book?
What am I reading currently? Teaming with Microbes.
Great book, Mr. Jeff Lowenfels, a friend of the show.
Oh, yeah?
Hell yeah. Jeff, I always hook Jeff up with a fat jar when he comes to Denver.
I actually have questions based on things I'm reading right now in the book as it relates to nitrogen-fixing bacteria and the use of, added nitrogen in the nutrients people buy.
Sure. Well, and we can even get into that a little bit. I mean, nitrogen, the interesting thing about nitrogen, one, it's water soluble. Two, an organic form of it has to be actually transferred into an inorganic or microbially processed in an inorganic plant available form. Inorganic and organic just means carbon-based or not carbon-based, right? So an organic form is going in, it's carbon-based, has to be originally it's actually eaten by the microbes. And Jeff will talk about this. And then interestingly enough, everybody thinks like the plants take up bacteria poop or something like that. It's actually the nitrogenous bases, the RNA and the DNA in after the bacteria actually dies. That's what the plant's taken up. So the interesting thing about nitrogen
the nutrients
is
get locked up in the bacteria, right?
They do. Absolutely. So like even in a field situation, if I were to take a nitrogen sample and say, okay, you need X amount more pounds per acre or something like that, and I put it out there, it's going to drop initially. And then over time, as the microbes die and that becomes available, it will rise.
Is hypochlorous acid going to help with that?
Hypochlorous acid is not going to help with any. Hypochlorous acid is not going to.
I'm just checking. I'm just checking.
So what now? So what people are going to do in something like where you have nitrogen readily available, it's already in NO3 minus, so it's just the inorganic plant available form, so it can go right in the plant. Yeah, that's nice in one way, and it's
ammonia? Also is that what that is?
NH4 is straight ammonia, and that actually still.
Ammonium nitrate.
So there are definitely, and then there's ammonia anhydrous ammonia, which that's by the Bosch-Haber process, I believe, which is something.
The natural gas of fixing.
We're already setting up.
This is why I'm here. This is why I came here.
That's why I came here too, buddy.
We're already setting up the next show, but that's something actually we wanted to talk a lot more about. About different forms of nitrogen, how the plant uptakes them. In a lot of ways, I like to look at it almost like cane sugar and high fructose corn syrup. Yes, both of them are able to be uptaken. One of them is much more usable and friendly to the plant than another. And really, like honestly, just the whole green revolution and fertilizer and thing that was a kind of an offshoot of the war machine, quite frankly. And what the hell are we going to do with all this
World
shit?
War II, they had a lot of ammonium nitrate left over
because for bomb making and everything else. This is literally, it's funny. This was going to be, and we'll delve into this topic more. But giving plants good available forms, quality forms, and not necessarily cheap forms of nitrogen. Over time, well, the one thing that's nice, again, it is water soluble, so it'll grow in a mass flow and just be taken up with water right away.
Yep.
But that also is why you can burn a plant with nitrogen. You really everything else, you can basically just lock out within the substrate. You're not really burning it per se. That's also one of the reasons why they always wanted you to leach out a little bit extra water. That's kind of the fertilizer company just saving their ass because they probably told you to use too much to begin with. So they're wanting to flush out a little extra nitrogen. That's it's water soluble. Then the plants won't burn. Yeah. So, the whole nitrogen price, because it goes from like NO3 or NO2 minus to NO3 minus, like nitrite to nitrate nitrogen. But nitrite nitrogen is actually toxic to the plant. I mean, there's some wild shit. That's the thing about, just plants and plant physiology and everything. I was in a plant physiology class, very high level plant class. And it literally got to the point where the teacher's like, well, that's all we know. And in fact, the last month has just been a guess. Like, I'm not joking. And these are like high level plant physiologists, but there's a lot of things we know in plants. We know point A and point B. We don't have any idea how it got there necessarily, but I also, the reality is there's not near as much research that goes into plants as opposed to animals or humans. More money that goes into human research than anything else, right? So it's like we would know more, but we still wouldn't know shit. I mean, plants they were here before us, they'll be here after us. They're autotrophs. They make their own food. They do everything in one place without moving. We don't grow shit. We're plant janitors at best.
That's an interesting point because most people think that the nutrients they're buying and pouring in their medium are plant food, and it's more like supplements.
It's more like supplements.
Well, and a lot of us who are using inert, cocoa and stuff like that, you need to have something.
But truthfully, that's all structure to the plant. The actual food is the sun and the CO2
yep.
making sugar. So it's not plant food. Actually,
it would grow without it.
So that's what I get kind of annoyed with this whole grower thing. It's like, we're not a grower, man. The plant is smarter than we are, and it's growing.
We're
itself.
stewards.
We're stewards. We're janitors, man. I've said this forever. We're plant janitors.
Plant janitors.
We're plant janitors. That's all, and that's okay. There's nothing.
It's like being an offensive lineman.
It's not the most glorious position, but damn it, they're needed.
It's important.
It's incredibly important. How would okay, now here we go. If you could interview anyone from your life, living or dead, who would it be and why? Not a celebrity. And you know what? Screw it. It could be a celebrity too. Who cares? Anybody.
I mean, he's been on TV, but I'm excited because I will be interviewing him. But it's time I put Sonny in front of me, man. Like he's been at every stage of my life.
Okay.
From about my junior year at UVA when we met and he recruited me.
So he's also a mentor, a motivator. Like he's been a lot to you in your life.
Yeah. And it's interesting when you have people that you trust that'll give you a real perspective on your performance and where you need to be better. And I would just love to hear what he thought, his perspective, as he's trying to mentor me, like what is he going through as these things change?
Right.
Do you think, because I know some of the stuff that Sonny does with you and some of his players and how he has that mentoring workshop out in Vegas and stuff. So he really tries to set his players up for success after they play,
Which
Sonny,
thankfully, thankfully that's a movement these days, right? You have like that part of football, which is a pretty ugly part of football where it was bang them up and God knows what happens after that and nothing on the backside of it. You know what I mean?
Sonny, we need you on. That's Sonny Shaw at Shaw Sports Group.
Sports Group. Okay. How would you describe a perfect day in the life of Eugene Monroe? What's your perfect day?
Perfect day. Every day is a perfect day.
All right.
8 hours of sleep.
I'm here, man.
This man has a very interesting.
Every day there's an opportunity to get better personally, to help other people. Yeah, every day.
All right, perfect. These are great great answers. Is there a question that you would have liked to have been asked, or talk about anything specifically? And you mention anything specifically?
Random. Maybe I told you. I also played team handball.
I don't know that I did. It's funny because I know you play the guitar.
Yeah, a little bit.
You know, in which nobody.
Not enough to come on here.
No, but I mean, hey, dude, there's a guitar in your house.
I got a
and
couple
you
of
played
them.
it.
I took lessons in
You know?
Jacksonville, man. Like I wanted to challenge myself. I'm not really musically inclined.
Yep.
But I'd always been fascinated, you know, in guitars, just as an instrument, and just I love the way you can just modify it.
I love the way the chicks love it.
So I took lessons for 2 years, and my instructor became one of my very best friends.
Dude, one of the things that's always impressed me with you, and just kind of, you know, being your buddy over the years, is you're not afraid. Like when you were like, I want to ski, and I'm like, all right. And well, first you were like, I think you said you wanted to snowboard, and I was like, look, dude, your feet are too big to be on a snowboard.
They don't,
you know,
this isn't gonna work.
And so, you know, you're like, I want to ski, and like, you know, we set you up, and we took you. You know, Webby and I took you up to the mountain. Webby and I and Marius took you out there, and like, bro, you learned how to ski.
I broke the bindings day one.
Day one, we had
That's
you. We had
part
you
of
in
the process.
We had
Almost
you.
landed on a tree.
Yep, we had him in. We had him in the toboggan on the first day. But you know,
but he got up and he went back.
But bro, I mean, now you
That
got.
was so embarrassing, bro.
It was like
let's
strapped to this thing.
Let's
no athletic ability to get down this mountain.
Let's
and here's your kid, just like.
So let's talk about that. So what happened exactly?
So we basically you know, Gene flies into Denver, you know, his buddy Webby, and Webby is, no matter what Webby is doing, he is a speed maniac. I believe he got a speeding ticket for doing something like 170 miles.
Okay,
in his car. He's a lunatic. So everything he wants to do, everything he wants to do, he is just fast about. So we come in, we rent Gene a pair of skis, and we tell the guy that Gene has just started skiing.
Sure.
And the guy does not bother to look at Gene's stature. He just takes the weight, and we're like, look,
no.
He used to be a pro athlete, maybe turn it up a little bit. So literally we take him up on the first run, and the first run, like second turn in, Gene, you know, makes like a little mistake, turns the ski, breaks the ski binding. We're done. Day's over. And you know, this is his first time up, so it's not like he's going to be skiing down on the one skis like somebody who's seasoned. Right. So we call ski patrol. They're like, look, your only option is the toboggan. So Gene, I may even have video, you know, Gene's in the back of the toboggan. He's sitting up.
And everybody
so he doesn't have to be laying down. And and everybody thinks you're injured. And we're just like, and it's disheartening. And we're like, look, dude, we're going to race back down from Leadville, back down to Littleton. We're going to get a new pair of skis.
We're doing this.
We go down, we get a better pair of skis. We get a better tech. The techs, we go in there, and the techs are like, oh, did you have Steven yet? Yeah, that guy sucks. Nah, he's a jerk. So they set it up harder. We actually bring Marius, and the next day we're out there at Loveland, and Gene's on the bunny slope and like
doing it.
It's dude, I have video. We have proof. And
it's not
out there.
Good video.
No, not now.
But it's here's the thing, and you know, this is one of the things that, and I don't want to answer this question for you, but what I'm hearing through your life, you know, kind of your career, your playing life, your post-playing life, everything else, you're not afraid to fail. And I think that's I think the older people get, the more afraid they are to fail.
Like skiing, it's not the most comfortable thing. Like my knee is definitely taking a toll out there, but it's such a challenge. And then I got like his son giving me hell, like just ripping and talking crap to me, and I'm not about to lose to this kid.
Sure, no.
So it's just another space to be competitive.
Yeah, exactly. I'm about to say it's just another place you can be competitive.
Well, now he's got the whole family.
Yeah,
now he's got the whole family out there. Sonia,
my wife, the youngest. Ski. My daughter, I mean, I probably shouldn't tell anybody this, but by the end of her first day on skis, she went down to blue.
Isn't it wild that some people? But
Utah blue, not this, like a Liberty.
Yep.
East Coast blue.
I had a buddy of mine. He was great on a mountain bike. Had really good body control. Everything else. I get him a ticket. You think, you know, no big deal. He was like a deer on ice skates. His girlfriend. He got so embarrassed and emasculated, of course, by his girlfriend out skiing once down the hill, and he was
Oh yeah,
was done.
we got the whole family.
Well,
out
I didn't
doing
expect,
it
but
now.
I didn't expect him to do that bad. I mean, skiing's an interesting thing. You get it or you don't. But again, I think that's amazing that with the injuries, with the uncertainty, everything else, you've gone out and done something like that, which I find, I'm 40 years old and I find it tough to be like, oh, I'm going to take up fill in the blank, anything. You know what I mean? You just get to a point in your life. So, kudos for continuing to challenge yourself. Obviously, that's a huge part of your life is challenging yourself and having things to work towards and having competition. And I think that's a really, I think it's a great way to live,
Always sharpening the sword.
Mhm.
I just can't help but think how people react to you here at the ski area and how people reacted to you in Japan, how people are going to react to you at the ski area in
Not just
Japan.
me and Matt.
and Bickle, you know. And I mean, are
I'm
they
trying
even
to cover up all my skin as best as I can, so I was just like, they won't know who's there.
You're still pretty giant. Though. You're still pretty giant.
Oh man, skiing in Japan, that would be amazing. Definitely a bucket list thing. I mean, I would just go eat and ski in Japan. That's all I'd want to do. I mean, that sushi dinner.
I cannot wait for this trip.
When are you going?
Japan.
January.
Japanuary.
All right.
What else?
Everybody.
What else you got?
I mean, is there anything? I mean, again, we already talked about where listeners can find you online, things like that. We already talked. I mean, I actually really appreciated that you talked about school because I think so many people's story, at least maybe it's the people in our space. It's like, well, I didn't really like school or school didn't really vibe with me or like whatever. And, for me, like school is something I always excelled in as well and enjoyed and something that I, saw is like, well, might not be the most fun thing, but like concentrating on doing it well will provide opportunities, and it seems like you did a great job of not just creating opportunities for yourself via sports. You did create opportunity for yourself on both sides. So even when you got into high level opportunities with people that are very good business people, you knew what was going on. You had gone to school, you had gotten your degrees, you had done well with it. And then you were lucky enough and had the doors open.
And by that time I had already, tried my hand in business, had success, had failure. And I wasn't a complete rookie, but I definitely had a lot to learn.
Right. No, I think, I think that's some good parting wisdom for folks out there. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to continue to educate yourself. That is part of life. It's just always getting better. And that's one of the things, again, that
you got to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
It's that simple, right? You got to believe, beyond a shadow of a doubt, like no doubt, right? You got this.
So would you say, last question I have, what are the best resources you feel like you've had along the way? Would it be the relationships you came across? And
it's people. Man. Like there's been so many people on my journey that have poured into me. So I try to do the same.
Sure.
People call themselves self-made and I'm just like, wow, like
that's not even possible. But it's not even, is that possible? Really self-made? Somebody's helping you. Let's be honest. And I'm a firm believer of your net worth is your network. There's no doubt about it. So it's been a pleasure, an absolute pleasure having you in the studio. Thanks for coming out to Colorado. It's been good that we've got to hang out quite a bit the last week or so. And
I'll be sure to come out after I'm finished with the book and have a further discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. More about, we'll do some more. And then, you got to do the whole, actually it's 4 books now, right?
Yeah.
I've got Teaming with Nutrients. I'll read after this.
Yep. All right. Well, we'll definitely be in touch. Thanks everybody for listening. Thank you for helping the Drug Dealers podcast be what it is.
This is dope. Like you guys are family, by proxy, by way of Gabe, my very good friend. But it's cool to be able to rep you guys on our show too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, we appreciate it. I was just about to throw out, for anybody who's listening as well, go follow the Smoking Heroes podcast. Gene's had a lot of really cool guests, including myself and Jared over the years.
Cool
but he's had, he's had Dead Prez. They're putting out some really cool stuff. So there's really neat stuff out there. These guys are doing something different. And as always, man, I love you. I appreciate you coming through the studio. I appreciate your support. And bro, onward and upward as always.
Thanks everybody. Thanks for coming out. Peace out.